Well, my name is Michelle Muhammad. I live in Southeast San Diego. My son's name is Michael Reno Beckwith. Everybody called him Mikey. Yeah, he was the baby boy of the family. He was a free spirit. He liked to crack jokes. So Mikey just had this sense of humor. Mikey's life was kind of like different. He was one that did not conform to what anybody said. Mikey was not contained to this neighborhood. Mikey had friends from, all over the place. He wasn't afraid to go up and talk to somebody. He could relate, no matter what you talked about. Mikey could relate to you. He didn't care what your color was. He didn't care if you had money, didn't have money. It didn't matter to Mikey. If you were a person, then you could be his friend. Mikey lived life to the fullest. If something happened 10 minutes ago, Mikey said, that is so in the past. I don't see why you even bringing it up. So basically, he was just a very open and fun-loving person that just did not let life get him down in any way. Why wasn't Mikey in a gang? I mean, he lived in the right area. Some of his best friends were gang members. Mikey wasn't in a gang. Mikey never had a desire to join a gang, I think the thing that kept Mikey out of gangs is that he never wanted for anything because he found everything he needed within inside his own family. You know what I'm saying? If he needed money, he went to his family. He needed love, he went to his family. He needed possessions, he went to his family. And what I learned, because even though I lived in a gang neighborhood, we wasn't really affected by the gangs. That's just what they do. My children don't do this, you know what I'm saying? So they wasn't really affected by it, yet they knew about the life and everything. Those were their friends. But one thing I learned that attracts the gangs is that when you don't get what you need at home, if you don't find the love and the support and the things you need in your home or in your community, if you don't have a support system, they will be your support system. And they don't mind paying the price, if you can understand what I mean. When you want love and acceptance so bad, you will pay whatever price, One thing I learned about children, especially, having so many children, was that a child will get your attention. You're going to get your parents' attention. If they don't pay you any attention, you'll do something wrong. It's not that you wanted to do wrong. You wanted their attention. And it seems like sometimes that's the only way they're going to pay attention to you. If you do something, if you break that glass or don't make up your bed or whatever it is, And I think that's one of the main reasons that the majority of people who are in gangs, that they join gangs. I think that the thing that got Mikey killed was not only being in the wrong neighborhood because he was in another set's neighborhood. It was something that I had taught him. And that was to look out for somebody else. And if a female had to go to the store, you escort her to the store. So he went to visit his girlfriend, and his girlfriend had a friend. And it was like a movie off a Lifetime. The whole time we're out shopping. We're on one side of town shopping, having fun as a family. And there was a girl on the other side of town, and she was like, there's this boy, and he's from Bay Vista, which is called the Park. And it's ran by the Lincoln Park gang. And he's coming over here, and I just want y'all to beat him up. And so the people that she was talking to, they were actually at the mall, and they were like, oh, please, would you stop blowing up our phone? Ain't nobody thinking about little Mikey. That's what they called him, little Mikey. Nobody's thinking about little Mikey. And so it shows you that when someone is determined to get something done, you know what I'm saying? If someone's trying to talk you into doing wrong, if you sit there for too long, they might convince you to do that. So it took her hours and hours, like the better part of the day. And finally, that's like, okay, we're going to come over. So they devised a plan. And when Mikey got to the apartment complex, they were hiding. And her job was to go get Mikey, right? So that was her friend's house that he was at. So she was like, can y'all walk me to the store because I need something from the store, right? So Mikey was like, okay, because I told him, it was dark time, walk the young lady to the store. So they walked to the store, they came back, but the boys wasn't in place yet. So she thought of another reason, like, I got to go back to the store. And his girlfriend said, Mikey started not to go, but then he's like, okay, let me do what my mom would want me to do. And so he walked her and came back. They were in place. It was like four young men. And I'm not really sure on the details of that. It all came out in the courtroom and stuff. At least people's version of the truth. It's like an accident. 10 people can see it, but all 10 people tell 10 different stories. But basically what happened was is they jumped him, and then the guy that actually shot him, right? He didn't participate in when they were fighting him, but he arrived with the gun, and they stood Mikey up, and then they shot him. He might have survived, but Mikey had asthma, and it was a hollow point. I don't know if you guys are familiar with hollow point bullets. When hollow point bullets enter you, they're like, they're closed, but when they enter you, they blow up, and then fragments just go over. So it was a single shot, like near his heart, and by the fact it was a hollow point, it did a lot of damage. And believe it or not, for a long time after that, I would have a pain right there. It took years for that pain to go away. Yeah, so that was Mikey's last day. He was pronounced dead at 10:04, and then we went to the hospital, and we waited for the doctors to come out. And when they came out, they were like, it was like two of them, right? Yeah, a male and a female. And they were like, well, can we talk to you? Like, yes. And they started to explain some things. I was like, please, just stop. Did he make it? And they were like, no, he passed. I said, thank you. And then we left the hospital. It was like, didn't want to hear the details. It didn't matter by that point. He was gone. See, the thing about it is that it affects each person differently. It affects the mother one way, it affects the father some way. It affects the siblings another way, it affects the friends another way. And the advice I would give to the mothers, because when you carry a child and you give birth to it, the connection with that child, the bond, is very strong. So no one feels the pain like the mother feels, but yet they still do, feel pain. So my advice to the mothers is that I would just say it to them like Mikey would say, and I would also say this to anyone else. Mikey would say, get over it. What's done is done. Focus on a better tomorrow for your own selves. Live your life. Don't die with the person that died. That would be the advice, Live the best life that you can live, because when you live the best life that you can live, then you're not a menace to society. You're not a problem to them. You're actually producing and bringing out something good. The main thing is knowing that everything is a process. No matter what you go through in life, it's a process. And if there's 2 steps, if there's 5 steps, if there's 10 steps, take every step, because when you avoid a step, you just have to go back and do it all over from the beginning. So it's a process. It's knowing that even negative emotions are okay, because if someone hurts you, right, what I learned is that it's not that you're angry that's the problem. It's what a person does with the anger. So it's going through all the proper steps. Revenge is your emotion. So allowing yourself to go through all these negative emotions, because after the negative emotions, you come to the positive emotions. That's why when I deal with my children, if they want to stomp to the bedroom or slam the door, it's no skin off of my back, as long as you go to the room, but if you're allowed sometimes to say certain things, it's like you get it out and you don't feel like punching. The person who pulled the trigger, his name was Duran, and he was 15 at the time too, so he's doing 50 to 60 years in life. And what I said to myself is that Duran didn't wake up that morning and say, I'm going to go out and kill somebody, let alone go out and kill Mikey. Something happened to him. So it's easy to get mad. The surface, it looks like it's just his fault, right? But when I started to go, like I told you guys, to go to the root, don't focus on the surface. When I started getting to the root, I was like, yes, they are responsible, but what type of life did they had to live, that made them make the decisions that they made. One thing I've learned in life, every decision is based off of one or more past experiences that you have. That's why you make messed up decisions, because you're drawing from really bad past experiences. And I knew that they were not so much the enemy. Yes, they did what they did. Yes, there is a price that they must pay. You know what I'm saying? Because cause and effect, karma, it's always going to come back and get you. So if you do something, it could get you 10 or 15 years later. Trust, it's going to get you. That's why it's good to live, make good decisions and live right, But so I started focusing on what's the bigger issue here. Who's really at the root of the problem? And the young people are not the root of the problem. They were just born into it. The root of the problem is our system, whether it's our government, whether it's the school system. Even though you might go to a very rich school, you know what I'm saying? Are they really preparing you for life? Are they really listening to you when you're saying, Tommy's getting on my nerves over there? No, Tommy's really not doing anything. You're not listening to me. Tommy really is getting on my nerves. And even though Tommy may not be doing, that's your reality. And you're going to start to strike out. So there's a bigger enemy that we all have. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't have our best. It's about money. It's about getting more money. The root of evil really is money, or the lack of it. So I had to look deeper. But yeah, I went through all those emotions. I hated them. I wanted to kill them. I wanted to do it all. But I came to a point where I said, it's easy to blame the person. But sometimes you got to look deeper and find out what drove that person to be what they did. They might not have had the opportunities that Mikey had, Some of our children here don't have the opportunities that you have. So, you know what I'm saying? So you can make a little better decisions. But I know good and darn well that you all here have had some hurt, pain, crisis in your own lives. Things that you have to deal with, Yeah, so that's how, I deal with it now, knowing that it's not about the person. It's about a bigger issue that's going on in our community. But one thing that we can all do, we must realize that there's a problem, whether it's this community or another community, and we must start to address the problem. It's like we become so immune as human beings to pain, to what's going on in the world. It's like, well, that's the course of the day. You know what I'm saying? It's like this. Well, when I go to school, my teacher's gonna piss me off. She's gonna make me mad. That's just what she does, and that's how we view life now. It just happened. After something happens so many times, it doesn't even have an effect on you anymore. Like your mother hollering at you. After so many times being hollered at, are you really listening to her after that? No, you're not, because that's what mom does. She hollers. So we can't become immune to what's going on. We must address situations in the positive and the right manner in order to change. A person's smallest problem should be addressed. Nothing should be overlooked. When you're talking about how people are feeling and what they're going through, nothing should be overlooked. None of us are immune to anything. And trust, whatever affects Southeast community will one day come rolling right up into your community. Because no one is immune. It's already hit your community. It might have hit it in a different way, but it hit. The same problems. When I speak, when I'm called upon to speak, I say the answer lies in what I'm being taught. Self-improvement is the basis of community development. It starts with the person. If I start to improve myself, and you start to improve yourself, and he starts to improve himself, then when we get together, then it's like we bring the best of us. So we have to go inside and pull out the best of us. Now, will everybody do that? I don't know. But that's where it starts at, being the best person that you can be. Because if you go into your communities or to your schools or to your little groups that you hang out with, and you're bringing negativity and he's bringing negativity, all you're going to produce is negativity. But if you go into bringing the best of what you are, and he brings his best and he brings your best, then your community is the best it could be. The thing that I would like to say, is that life is a gift, and we ought to treat it like it's a gift. And we ought to live it as like Mikey lived his. Mikey lived his life to the fullest. I mean, he did more in 15 years than a lot of people done did in 30 and 40 years. He was not afraid to live. Even with gang members in his neighborhood, he had a plan and he went for his plans. He was not afraid. There's a guy in our community, and he's like, he knows entertainers. And Mikey will walk up to him every time and say, can you give me a music deal? I'm waiting on that music deal. He was not afraid to live. Don't be afraid to live, and don't be afraid to address the problems and the issues that come up, because the only way to, to find a solution is to actually sit down and talk about the problem openly and honestly.
I would ask that if you ever get to talk to other youth, what is it that they need? And even I've seen, and have known other people, even though they live in good communities and they come from, they're well off, they still have different issues where they feel, they're not loved, or they feel they have all this money, but they still feel their parents don't care, they don't make time. So how could we help, and what do you need from adults that are passing through in your life? So those are some of the things that I would want to know. My son wasn't perfect. He was a typical teenager. He had ups and downs. But I tried my best as a mom. We're going to die. They actually had to come back to help bury my son. So, never did that cross my mind that I would have to worry about my son here and that there was a possibility he would die. Never did I imagine that. But we don't worry about him anymore. We worry for the ones here. We don't worry about them dying in the war. We don't worry about that because this is a war zone right here, actually. We're killing each other for no reason. And young kids, they're killing themselves. They're killing each other. And this is where we worry. We don't worry about that anymore. We don't worry about my nephew anymore. We don't worry about the one going into Afghanistan. We don't worry about my nephew who's a marshal and is out there on an assignment. That it just doesn't cross our mind anymore. It's more the worry is here. And that's pretty sad if you think about it. There's like some happy moments there. And this is, just wanted to share the pain of his brothers. This is his little brother, the 10-year-old, and his 10-year-old brother helped carry the casket. So that's what I wanted to share. And this is where we had to bury him, and you'll see his little brothers there again. And that's us saying goodbye. And this is a surprise that my kids did for me. They found a horse and carriage, and they wanted to give me just a little bit of beauty, something, to carry his brother. And when I came out, this is the surprise they had for me. So those are just some things.
Well, as I look back on the day, because I'm a person that I say I love you like I breathe. That's just what I say to people, And I look back on the day and I said, did I tell him that I love you? You know, and for the like of me, I can't remember. Knowing me, being the type of person I am, I probably did say it, but I can't recall that moment in time where I actually did. It is so important because if you guys are friends and you have a fight and then something happens to one of you, your mind will always go to that negative thing. It's not going to go for a while to the positive things you said to the person, even though you said 10 positive things to him that day, but one negative thing, that's what your mind is always going to go to. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to go to, oh, I told Tommy he was great, or I told Tommy he was good, or me and Tommy had a good time. I told Tommy that I hated him. And that's what's really going to stick in your mind for a long time to come. So just tell a person that you love them, because they don't even have to accept it. Tommy could say, oh gosh, would you stop it? That's just being a sissy. But it's going to hit him in a way. You know what I'm saying? And he's going to feel it, because love is power. There is a lot of power in love. So just never forget, because you don't want any regrets, you know? You don't want any regrets with anybody in your life. You don't want, you come home one day and mom's not there no more, and you say, my gosh, I told my mama that I hated her. I don't hate my mom. I was just mad at my mom. So just be careful on how you talk to one another, how you speak to one another, because that might be the last memory or the last words that you say to that person. You just never know.